Hello, my name is Luke. Today I just wanted to go over some of the few pieces in my playing card collection, just to give you guys the opportunity to maybe see some things that I've been collecting over the past few years, and just give you an opportunity to listen and relax and just think about some of the particulars of the things I'm saying exactly. And if you hear any other noises in the background, I do live right next to some train tracks. There are some other just environmental noises that you'll hear. So just don't worry about that and just focus on some of what I'm talking about with these cards. Now, I have to confess, I love playing cards. And let me tell you a small story before we begin about why I love playing cards. Well, I went on this mission trip, I think in 2012 or 2013, with a church. It's no longer a church that I subscribe to very often. However, there was one transformative experience, and that was sparking my interest in magic and cards. There was this kid who would perform pretty rudimentarily a lot of tricks popularized by Miss Mag 822 on YouTube. He's a excellent old school YouTuber who does a lot of magic trick tutorials. They're great. And he showed me how to do some of these tricks, and from then on I was hooked. And this deck in particular, not this one, but this one, was the first deck that I ever purchased with the intention of doing magic tricks. If it gives you any guess as to where we were for that mission trip, hopefully that might help. However, this deck came to mean a lot more than service. Service is great, but magic is awesome. So you can see this was my first deck of cards. I did a lot of fairly basic tricks with this deck, and that's what really started it all for me. So I always have to look back on this deck, not critically. It's not a great deck of cards. It is made in China, I believe. Yes, it is. But it started it all for me. So, without further ado, let's get into some other decks that I really enjoy from a playing card level. And the first one, my number one deck ever, is actually set before you right now. And that is, of course, the Tally-Ho Fanback in blue. Now, I could give or take the blue or the red color, either one, but I just absolutely love the design and the durability of the Tally-Ho Fanbacks. This is one deck that I will never sell or settle for anything else. Ever since I've broken in my first deck of Tally-Hos, which was this one actually, I refuse to settle for anything else when I'm practicing or performing. They really are just that good and that reliable, and you can see how yellow the sides of these are, how worn, but they still fan perfectly, and they just feel great in the hand. They really do feel incredible. For that reason, I have to say, this is my favorite deck of cards, even though it is fairly basic. You can see it is just your standard faces for everything. The only custom part is the backs, and it comes with this. Well, at least it used to come in like 2011. It came with this ad for bicycle personalized cards. Came with a boring Joker, guarantee Joker. Came with an ad for some shit. I don't know what that is. And it came with the coolest Joker ever. Tally-ho, he says. Such a cool joker. And if I didn't mention it already, I not only live right next to a train track, but I also live in close proximity to the third busiest airport in the United States. So you might also hear some plane noise. My sound budget is not the highest for this video. I just want you to know that before you think I'm cheaping out. So that's the first deck I'll show you, is the Tally-Ho Fanback. And that's a great way to start off everything, because not only is it my favorite deck, it's also such a basic deck, which illustrates that you don't have to have a lot of flash and flair to be an excellent deck of cards. This is no better epitomized than by the more recent release of the Product Red playing cards from Theory 11. As you can see, these are Theory 11 cards. And if you're unfamiliar, Product Red is actually an excellent charity that works toward a cure for HIV and AIDS. So you can see the back of the deck is actually embossed with this print that says, "Imagine a world without AIDS." It's an incredible cause, an incredible deck, and a very simple deck. Opening the deck, you see there's a little statistic here. Sorry, it's not a statistic. It's just a nice little saying. It says, "Every generation is known for something. Let's be the one to deliver an AIDS-free world." Now, if I were to criticize that sentence, I might say that there should be a hyphen between AIDS and free. But I can forgive it on the grounds of it being a charitable cause. Opening the deck. So this is an advertisement card for Theory 11 itself, and I suspect that the reason they included this card is because this deck, seeing as it represents the Product Red charity, it has a wider reach and a wider audience. People might buy it that are unfamiliar with Theory 11. People might buy it that have never purchased a pack of playing cards before. So they include this without being heavy-handed about it, because that might be inappropriate given the charitable context. But they include this just as a little introduction. It says, "Theory 11 produces the world's finest playing cards. The perfect gift and an amazing piece of art." I couldn't agree more. And there's the website there. The ultimate high-end luxury playing cards. So that's the same on both sides. And then there's this card, which is also the same on both sides. And it says, "In 2002, more than 1,200 babies were born with HIV every day. Now, that number is just 400. Together, we can reduce the number of HIV-positive babies born each day from 400 to 0. And that is a pretty lofty goal, but it's one that companies like this, Product Red, help to achieve, and even less in a financial sense as more in just a public awareness sense, such that people, become aware of causes like this and the fact that it is a worldwide problem that, well, obviously it doesn't have the reach that it did during the AIDS epidemic. It still is something that needs to be cured. Alright, you want to talk about a simple deck? That's it, baby. That is all that's on the backs. Truly, truly beautiful deck of cards. Reminds me a lot of the Knock deck NOC. I believe that's a House of Playing Cards deck. Very similar back design. That says right here, every deck of product red playing cards can provide over 3 days of life-saving, should be a hyphen there, HIV medication to someone in need. It says the same thing on both jokers. And the Ace of Spades says Ace of Spades, which is cool, I guess. And the rest of it, I believe, is fairly standard, with the exception being, of course, the court cards, the Jack, Queen, and King, have this black, white, and red aesthetic to them. I believe the reds are a bit darker and a bit more blood red in this deck than they would be on a bicycle or a tally-ho deck. So that is the product red deck by Theory 11. Now, of course, I said a deck of cards does not have to be dead simple for it to be effective and nice to look at. And that point is directly contrary to the fact that these cards exist. From what I can tell and what I've seen through collecting playing cards, the Monarchs by Theory 11 started this absolute shitstorm of gold foil boxed playing cards. That's not to say that gold foil boxes don't look really great, because they do. I feel like it might be a little played out at this point, but that is truly just me, and I think there's still something to it. It is beautiful, though. And you see this right here is a full brick of unopened red Monarchs, with the exception of the one I'm holding, which is open, of course. So that's sort of neat. What always sort of bothered me about the red Monarchs, or the Monarch series in general, in fact, a lot of Theory 11 cards, is that aside from the outward aesthetics, the cards inside can often handle fairly mediocre and look fairly boring. Now, I must say the back design of the Monarchs is beautiful. I'm not doubting that or denying that. But once you get to the actual cards, they are sort of standard and boring. I feel like the Monarch archetype could use a facelift in 2018. This was very refreshing to see 5 years ago. Not as much anymore. That's all I have to say about the Monarch line. I know I sound like I'm totally, absolutely taking a dump on the Monarchs. They're good cards. I think the design's beautiful. I'm just saying, maybe it might be time for something new. This next piece is a little bit more of an oddity as much as it is anything else. This is a deck of cards not produced by the U.S. Playing Card Company, which is very rare within my collection. These are called casino playing cards. However, among most circles, these are better known as the Massa or Massa deck, as you can see, sort of inscribed right there, Massa. So basically, I have a brick of these here that I actually got fairly cheaply. I got the whole brick, which is 12 cards, 12 decks, for about $25, which is not bad at all. Typically, a brick of US PCC cards might run you, $60 to $80 depending, but regardless, what I like about this box is that it is very decorated, unlike a lot of the US Playing Card Company brick boxes, which are just plain white. This one's sort of neat because you can lift up this little punched graphic, and you can display the cards. Oh, I guess not. You can display the cards like this. Maybe I could open up these flaps. Ooh, I'm floundering. Someone help me. I don't know. You get the idea, though. The idea is that you can display them like that. Something like that. But much more interesting is the actual deck inside. Well, maybe not much more interesting. About the same amount of interesting. So right here you can see you have this gold shiny box. Very neat. Not much to it, but you see important note that they are actually made in the USA. So taking the cards out now, you'll see that they are a bit unusual because instead of most USPCC decks that have a white border, these have a black border, and they are very beautiful. So you see there is this number right here. I'm not sure what happens when you call that number, and I am sort of curious to find out. So while we're here, while we're having this friendly exchange, I thought maybe we could call that number and just see what happens. I'll try to keep it as relaxing as I can. So I'm on my telephone right here. Someone call this a mobile telephone. I'm just going to head to the phone app. I'm going to punch in that number. So that's 877 DBL DOWN. So DOWN. Alright, there it is. Let's take a look.
Thank you for calling Double Down Outreach. For help with needs, volunteering, or speaking engagements, please dial 0 for Karen Browning, Outreach Leader and Teacher. Please note, we cannot help with motel rooms. For recovery needs or special worship guests, please dial 700 for Jen Shapiro, our recovery specialist and worship leader. For donations or organizational needs, please dial 701 for Chad Browning, our outreach coordinator.
You hear that?
Not sure who to
Chad
talk
Browning.
to? Dial 0. When life gets messy, double down. Have a blessed day.
I guess we'll press 0 because I'm not sure who to talk to.
Thank you.
Oh, here we go. Let's see what they have to say.
You've reached Karen Browning with Double Down Outreach in Indiana CDL Training Center. Please leave your name, number, a brief message, as well as the best time to return your call, and I will get back with you as soon as possible. Thank you and have a blessed day.
At the tone, please record.
All right, let's see.
When you've finished recording, you may hang up or press 1 for more options. To leave a callback number, press 5.
Hi, my name is Luke. I was just wondering if I could get more information about this deck of cards. I saw your phone number, 877-DBL-DOWN, on a pack of playing cards, and I was wondering if I could learn more about what Double Down Outreach exactly is. And I am wondering if the whole Massa playing cards thing is just a big evangelical scam. So, a call back at any time of day, preferably the daytime, would be appreciated. Thank you very much. Hope to hear from you soon. Bye-bye. Alright, so that was Karen. I suppose she'll return my call at her earliest convenience. So not entirely sure what this company is about. Don't know what they're trying to sell me exactly in these cursed playing cards. But please know, these are great cards for not being USPCC. All I have to say about the Massa deck for now. The next deck of cards I want to talk about are called LTD, or Limited. This is a deck of cards from the early 2010s, and there was originally only a print run of 5,000 decks. These are a fairly limited release in terms of playing cards. And I happen to have 3 of them, 2 still in the package, which is a point of pride. Might be selling these soon. And 1 is opened. And I'm glad I opened this one as opposed to these 2, because this one actually arrived damaged. Very minor damage. You can see there's this little splotch, white splotch there at the tip of the D where it says limited. Typically, I wouldn't be too angry about this, but this is a rare deck. But that's alright. Whoa. One of my favorite personal jokers in this deck is the LTD deck. You can see fingers. Ben Shapiro. The liberals. Just controlling them. Interesting. So you can see I've never even taken these out of New Deck Sequence. It comes with a double backer, and it comes with the old style ad card with their old slogan, Magic Beyond Belief. And it has this neat back design with these very sort of subtle red spots that really pop up close, but they look pretty regular from afar. Which is one of the main things I like about this deck, is just how it presents. It is a very understated and beautiful deck in that sense. However, because of its limited nature, I try not to mess around with it too much. And of course, these 2 I will never open, because why would I? I can just see what's inside in this box. So that is the LTD deck by Illusionist. Now, you know what they say. How do you follow up one of the most beautiful decks of playing cards ever made? Well, with a sequel. And that is where the blue LTDs came from. Now, in contrast to their red cousin, these are not a limited deck. These got a wide release, which is sort of nice because it's an update, a refresh of the original LTD cards that makes them affordable to all audiences. So this is essentially the same thing. The same beautiful jokers, which are upside down. Same beautiful backs, except they're in blue, which I don't like as much because it doesn't really pop. And you do get a nice gaff card that's actually the Queen of Hearts regular, but you flip it over, and all those dots are actually red, so you could do some sort of color changing effect, potentially. Interesting. Not much to say about the blue LTD deck, aside from, they're good. They handle well. I don't have any major complaints, and when I was 13, I pressured my mom to buy me 12 of them. So, that's that. The next deck is potentially my favorite back design in any of the playing cards that I own, and that is, of course, the back design of the Bulldog Squeezers. Now you might look at it like this and say, well, what's the deal? Well, that's the deal. Allow me to take out one of the cards to show you. I say as I take out all of the cards. Let's see. So this is the back design of the Bulldog Squeezers. There's these two dogs with collars that say Squeezer and Trip. And they're fighting at each other, but they're both tied back to their homes. And that's what it says. It says at the bottom there is a tie that binds us to our homes. Indeed there is, as the moon looks on mischievously. Looks like Michael Jackson or something. So these are my Bulldog Squeezers. I have absolutely... Oh, sorry. Well, appears to be a little out of focus. I have no idea why, but these cards handle terribly. Like horribly. I have no idea why. I don't know if I bought a knockoff deck. I mean, everything looks up to code. But they handle terribly. I only keep them around to look at them. So that's going to conclude it for the Bulldog Squeezers. Alright, the next couple decks I want to show you, I'm going to show you together in tandem. Because, from my fairly rudimentary knowledge of playing cards, these were released as part of the same limited series, which was a Target exclusive, which is interesting because I now work at Target. Point being, these are both color variations of the standard bicycle deck. This one is called Twilight, evidenced by the bottom, and this one is called as evidenced by the bottom. Alright, and these are both pretty neat. Funny story about this one, I actually work at a movie theater, and we were having a holiday party for the associates at the theater. And someone brought this deck of cards to play games with, I suppose, and they left it on a table. And I took it, because it's an excellent deck of cards. It's not in incredible shape. The edges are a little yellowed. Clearly been played with, but they still handle great. And watch me as I fumble around with the deck of cards. There are a couple stains on the deck, like these coffee stains here, whatever. But overall, it's a very neat, semi-rare, just uncommon deck. And you see all the court cards have this sort of interesting visual aspect to them, where they're sort of blown up and they look very, whoa, modern 2007, sort of in your face, which is neat. And they have this deck has this nice fuchsia sort of back design, back color variation to it, which is interesting. So that's that one. And this one is the Twilight Deck. This one has the more interesting back design, just because there was some dimensionality added rather than just color. This one you see is just a straight color switch. This one is actually, they took this rectangle and turned it green. They added a green border. They made it sort of this, I don't know, very layered image, which is sort of neat to look at. Right, let's see. See, this is an Ohio deck, Cincinnati, Ohio. And this deck is interesting because the pips are actually changed. These were too, but in a more subtle way. The pips of these, the red is green, And the black is sort of this off black. It's like a dark blue. Very neat. And I believe, yes, these have the same effect with the court cards. So, two sort of odd decks. Like I said, just going over a few pieces in the collection. We have a couple more pieces, and then I'll get you out here as soon as possible. Not that I don't want you here, but I don't want to overstay my welcome. And of course, if you would like to hear from me again about these cards, just let me know, and I can talk about them ad nauseum. The next deck is the Expert at the Card Table deck. Now, for those uninitiated, the Expert at the Card Table book is a book, a classic book written by an author going by a pseudonym. His pseudonym was S.W. Erdnase. Now, there's been a lot of debate as to who S.W. Erdnase is, but all we know is that he or she penned this book a long time ago, and a lot of the different card manipulation methods outlined in this book came to influence how magic and card magic evolved into the 21st century, especially through catalysts like Di Vernon and people like that. So this is the actual book that the deck is modeled after. And you'll see it's very similar, even down to the spine. It has those same details. Alright, so we can put the book away. And we can take a look at the deck itself. So, sort of unusual, the box itself has something of the air cushion finish to it. As you can see, there's that detail in it, which really makes it feel sort of premium and luxurious in a sense. So, let's focus that camera once again so you can see what we're working with. Right, you see it says SWE for S.W. Erdnase. And out comes a very beautiful deck of cards. Expert at the Card Table, 1902 it says. That's the year the book came out. And you go through a fairly standard deck of cards, standard court cards. If anything, the image looks a little shrunken, but that might just be me having tunnel vision. And you can see there are some additional cards here that are pretty special. Two identical jokers with those nuts on them. Some would say those are Mr. or Mrs. Erdnase's nuts. And then these are pretty much copies, photocopies from the beginning of the book. This is like the title page. And this is the preface, a very, very interesting and inspiring, maybe not inspiring, but definitely an ominous sort of quote. You can see that. I used to really like this quote. Allow me to read it to you now. Keep in mind, this is the preface to the larger work, Expert at the Card Table. Quote, "In offering this book to the public, the writer uses no sophistry as an excuse for its existence. The hypocritical cants of reformed, gamblers, or whining, mealy-mouthed pretensions of piety are not foisted as a justification for imparting the knowledge it contains. To all lovers of card games, it should prove interesting, and as a basis for card entertainment, it is practically inexhaustible. It may caution the unwary who are innocent of guile, and it may inspire the crafty by enlightenment on artifice. It may demonstrate to the tyro that he cannot beat a man at his own game, and it may enable the skilled in deception to take a postgraduate course in the highest and most artistic branches of his vocation. But it will not make the innocent vicious, or transform the pastime player into a professional, or make the fool wise, or curtail the annual crop of suckers. But, whatever the result may be, if it sells, it will accomplish the primary motive of the author, as he needs the money. End quote. That was S.W. Erdnase, writing in 1902. Very cool. And how rude of me, I never even showed the back of these cards, which is very similar to the standard B backs, but there is that border around them. It's in dark green. So that's the Erdnase deck. Very neat deck of playing cards. Alright, the final deck that I'm going to share with you today is another rare deck. This is the Brown Wynn deck. Now, to provide some context as to why this is such a rare and interesting deck, I'm also going to bring in some friends that can help explain. So, there's a casino in Las Vegas, a famous casino called the Wynn Casino. And all of the cards I have in front of me are the original playing cards that are used in the Wynn Casino. That symbol right there is the symbol of the Wynn Casino. Through an eBay auction, I got my hands on 2 good condition unused decks from Wynn, 2 poor condition game used Wynn decks, and 1 unopened brown Wynn deck. Now typically they would only use the blue or the red variation in the casinos. I'm not entirely sure why the brown ones were printed, but they were, and they are a very sexy deck of cards. As you can see on the back, this is the typical format for any casino deck of cards. Being that they were used in a casino, there are many more security features that have to be in place to control the playing cards so there's no tampering. So that's why there's this is actually a plastic window right here. And you can see this deck is from March 30th, 2007. And this deck, the Brown Wynn, is from May 13th of 2005. Alright. So I'm going to get into the Brown Wynns first to show you. Allow me to focus the camera. Perfect. Right, so it comes with that card, 2 jokers, comes with this card, special scanning code it says, and here we are at the Brown Wynns. A very beautiful back design, very beautiful, beautiful brown, deep, sort of chocolate color brown, but then you get to the faces of the cards and they are, of course, incredibly ugly. Because they are jumbo index. But that's okay, because sometimes it's more about how rare the deck is and the status that it holds with it than the quality of the cards. Take, for example, Jerry's Nugget playing cards. They might be rare. You might have to pay $600 a deck. But how well handling are those cards from 50 years ago going to compare to a brand new deck you can buy in the store? Not very well. I rest my case. This is the red Wynn, also similarly beautiful. I won't open the blue one, just it's blue. But the red is nice. Similar to the blue. And that they're actually standard index. They don't have that ugly sort of, oh, who knows what that is, jumbo index feature. So those are all the decks of cards that I'm going to be covering today in this video. I will let you all know if I hear back from the people at Massa playing cards and see if they are indeed trying to sell me on their religious agendas. And until then, I hope you all have a fantastic day. Goodbye.